Hello and welcome, Courtney, to In Her Bag. How are you today?
Hi, I'm doing amazing. As you can see, I'm in the warmest weather possible, so
No,
joy.
I see that. Tell the people where you are.
I'm currently in sunny South Africa in Johannesburg.
Oh gosh, I'm jelly. But anywho, okay, so Courtney, tell the people a little bit about what it is that you do.
Yes. So I am a mindset strategist and I am also a coach. So, what does that actually mean in practicality? I help people shift from the idea of just wanting to do something to developing the habits and routines that allow them to achieve it. And I do this with my own specialized framework and approach. And that is my business. I'm also a content creator. It naturally comes in the world of being an entrepreneur now, where you also have to be a personality on platforms. But I step outside of just my coaching stuff and share some of the fun stuff to tea, fly clothes, and being in places like South Africa as well. And then I also have a 9 to 5 where I work in tech. I work currently at Meta as a program manager in the intellectual property space.
So when it comes to processes and systems, you know exactly what it is that you're doing, and you're also doing it at the highest level. So love that. So you've really worked with, one of like the biggest companies in the world in terms of putting together systems. But then you also break that down for everyday people like me, who need to be able to implement that into our lives. We can read as many books as we'd like, shout out to Atomic Habits. But in terms of that accountability and being able to make it personalized, you really know what it takes to make people successful at reaching their goals. So tell me, how did you develop your approach to strategic goal setting, and what key lessons have shaped your process over the years?
So I think for me, when I've answered this question, I always think with the idea of strategic planning always seems like so boring. But when I think of strategic planning, I really think about the dreamer mindset. Because in order to develop a strategy, you have to have a little bit of a vision. And when I think of a vision, I think of a dreamer. And for me, that started when I was a kid. When I was like 7 years old, I had this vision that I was going to move out of the small town that I lived in. I was going to be doing work that I loved, and I was going to be lit at adulting. I was going to have the best time. And I think a lot of us probably had that vision that when we grew up, we were going to do all these amazing things. And I think for a lot of us, some of us lose some of that magic. But when I started my own business, I went to that magic and reverse engineered it to develop some of the programs that I have today. So I'm going to share a little bit of a story. It's a hilarious story in a way, but it is the early entrepreneur mind coming into place. So back in the day, and I don't know if this is like happens everywhere, but we used to sell candies, chocolate bars for fundraising for the school, whether it be like a field trip or whatever. So we're back in the first grade. I'm tasked with selling X amount of candy bars to get the pizza party for my class. Now, I'm a work smarter, not harder kind of girl. Like if I could achieve the goal in the simplest way possible, I'm gonna do it. So as a first grader, imagine, I was like, I can sell these candy bars at my grandpa's church for $5 and people will buy them. And I won't have to sell as many candy bars and then we'll win the pizza party. So with
Wait,
that strategy,
how much were the candy bar supposed to be?
a dollar. So we're talking about a 500% markup. Mhm. Adorability comes with a tax. Adorability comes with a tax, okay? And I was persuasive. And you would never guess that I sold out that box of chocolates. And somebody went to my mother and goes, I just bought a candy bar from Courtney for $5. And my mom was like, but they're a singular dollar. So how is this possible? But I had a vision. I wanted that pizza party for my class. I love a good cheese pull. I wanted to be the winner in the class, right? So instead of applying what was told to me, I took my own unique approach to achieve the goal. And when it comes down to strategy, goal setting, there's, like you said, atomic habits, there's feel good productivity, there's all these different books and lessons that you can learn along the way, and you should absolutely use them to inspire you, right? But what I learned early on is you have to apply a little bit of your secret sauce to make that goal actually come to life. And more importantly, you got to have a why. You have to have a very clear vision on why you're doing that thing. So applying that to my business, I think one of the earlier lessons as a newer entrepreneur, and also especially because like I never anticipated on being an entrepreneur, I kind of like accidentally became one because my friends told me I was really good at something. And originally it was career coaching. But the thing is, I hated talking about careers all the time. Like I
Yeah.
can do it as a goal long term. I could do that in pockets, but doing it all the time, it just was not fulfilling. So I had to look at my own business and get clear on my objectives. And one of the approaches that I think is aside from like, atomic habits and such is the SMART framework, right? We've heard S is for being specific, and then you want to make sure that they're measurable and actionable and all of those things time bound and so on and so forth. But the thing that the SMART goals don't talk about is how do you do a post mortem? And in big corporate, that's one of the things that was like the main part of my job, doing a post mortem, right? So I started applying that to my own business. And there is an expansion of that framework called the SMARTer framework, right? And that's when you involve evaluation and repivoting those goals to make sure that they are applicable to what you're actually trying to do, right? So I would continuously evaluate what my goal was. And what that looked like was I had a discovery call. I wasn't making no money. I wasn't converting nobody from a lead to being a client. And it was frustrating and it was a waste of my time. So I had to look at one, is money the only goal I have? One. And two, if it is one of the primary goals I have, how can I make sure that I'm pivoting to make sure that I'm achieving that goal? So I started charging for my discovery call. And it actually turned out to work out better because the clients that were coming through that funnel now actually did want to convert to paid clients because they had already made the initial investment. And if they didn't, they also saw value in the time that we spent together. So I think it's really important for you to have a clear why. One, like I mentioned with my cheese pull story, I won that pizza party at the end of the day. And also be open to the continuous evaluation and revision of goals. And that's how you can drive towards continuous success.
Yeah. So I love how you expanded on the SMART model. I'm currently reading a book called The Obstacle is the Way. And in it, like, he talks about we don't do like that review, we don't do that post mortem. So smarter. So we have specific, measurable, uh,
Actionable.
thank you, actionable,
Oh, and
realistic,
achievable. Yep. Really
time
good.
bound. And then we
Mhm.
have so that is evaluate.
Evaluation and revision.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love that. I love that. Oh my gosh. Okay, so like what was it that kind of brought you to that point where you were like you know, I'm smart, but I could be smarter. Like at what point were you like, "Okay, this model is not quite it. Like we need to actually put something more robust, something that does give us that intentional hindsight and that lessons learned." Like what was that kind of like moment for you?
I think it was when I became a manager in big corporate. So, yes, I work at Meta, but I've worked at Fortune 500 companies my entire career. And one of the big things that leaders always do is one, well, actually, two behaviors. One, they're really okay with not achieving the goal as long as there's a reason behind it. And as soon as I learned that, I was like, so weird because you think that like you need to get an A. Like we learn in school that you want to get 100%, but it's really not that. And then secondly, part of my background is also in supply chain, and my goal was only to be 80% correct. I was given the ability to be 20% incorrect and do well. That was amazing. If I got that 80%, that meant that I was like the best of the best. Anything above 50% even, they were like, "Damn, you're really good at your job." So, seeing these major companies be okay with that gap for failure taught me that it needs to be part of the planning when you're thinking about your goals because you're not going to achieve everything. That's like unrealistic to make sure to try to be perfect in that way.
Yeah.
So, knowing that, I started applying that to my own business, to my own goal setting approach, and also how I work with my clients. Because I think one of the common misconceptions is that failure is not part of the goal setting process. And in fact, failure is the most important part of the goal setting process because it informs the strategic decisions you can make. It informs you on what you need to learn on and what just doesn't work. Some things
Yeah.
just don't work, and that's okay.
I know it's crazy how we've gotten to this point where it's like failure is a bad thing, but how often do we learn more from failure than like I have learned more from my failures and my struggles than when I got something on the first try. And sometimes it's like it's you need that like resistance of success in order to really get the lesson learned. I think where people kind of get stuck in that is that they'll sit in their failure and they soak in it and they just like let it fester. And it's no, fail quick, fail cheap, keep it pushing.
Exactly that. And perfection is boring, to be
It
honest.
is. It
Like,
is. What do you learn from that? If you're great
exactly.
at something the first time, I think like and also I mean, it definitely depends on the goal as well. I think we see that a lot of times in social media. Somebody will post a video and it goes viral. First video. Awesome.
Mhm.
They get a ton of followers. They have like tons of views, tons of likes off this one video, and then they don't know how to recreate that.
Yeah.
They never actually learn what goes into making a success. There's no actual lessons learned. They can't even actually go back and think like, what was it that made this a good thing that made this go viral? How can I make this an actual system for continued
Mhm.
success? And
Mhm.
so just because something doesn't pop off the first time you give it a go doesn't mean that it won't at some point. Use the smarter method. And because you're measuring, because you're doing that evaluation, you'll get to that point. So what's a common misconception about goal setting that you've encountered and how do you address it?
Yeah, so I think the first one I mentioned was definitely failure. Failure is one of the biggest teachers, as we had said. I think another misconception that I work with people on, because I think it's just so important, is do not set a goal without having a mission and define values also. Like, let's add that too. Because if you're just setting goals, like to your point, that person that's on social media, right? And you're just like, all of a sudden you have this viral video. But imagine you have a container, we call that a niche today, right? Or some kind of embodiment of your storytelling, right? That you're trying to push towards your audience. So maybe you didn't anticipate that one video to go viral, but it's in the container or the niche that you set for yourself. It's driven towards a mission, it's aligned to the values that you're trying to convey on the platform. So you're not trying to figure out, like, what do I do with this now that I have this success? Now you can like actually put a plan in place because you know what is actually working, right? So I think one of the biggest things is you need to be clear on that mission, whether that's you as a person, you as a business, you as a professional. Be very clear on what that is. And a mission is purpose and impact. And it's important to keep that in mind. It's not about just like the what, it's about the impact that that thing is going to have too. It's also important to have very clear values put in place. So, what is going to be that barometer for your decisions and actions that you take? That's so critical because it will make you very clear on what you're saying yes to, what you're saying no to, what you're giving your energy to, what you're prioritizing. And then lastly, I think defining success beyond just the goal. Because there's so many times that people set a goal and they achieve that goal and they're like, yes, great, I did this thing, but then they're unfulfilled because the goal was superficial. It wasn't part of their success story. They don't even know what success looks like for themselves. And so they just achieve something and they're like, "Oh, okay," but then you have no satisfaction. One of the biggest things about goal setting that I do, and that has made me, I think, continuously successful, is I like to celebrate my goals. But you can only celebrate your goals if you know how they contribute to your success. Otherwise, you're kind of like, this is empty. So those would be some of the common misconceptions. And I think actually one last, do not set goals that have external dependencies. Don't set goals that are reliant on other people to do something if they've not set that goal too.
Yeah.
Those would be my top misconceptions there.
Yeah. Can you give me a little bit of an example of the last one?
Oh, yeah, definitely. So, like, let's say you're looking to get funding for your business, right? And you're like, oh, I need to secure funding from this person that I met at an event or from this specific firm or whatever, right? That is an external dependency. They could say no, they could not have money, they could have bankruptcy issue. You don't know what's happening on the other side of that. So you setting that as a goal isn't necessarily going to give you a pass fail, or it's also going to allow you to be able to measure and reevaluate it in the end of it all, because you're depending on somebody to do something. So instead of having that goal of securing that investment from that person, maybe it's, I need to develop a compelling pitch deck to be able to share with potential investors at any moment in time. Now that is a lot more empowering, and you're fully in control of how those outcomes happen.
Yeah. And we all know the power of a pitch deck.
And having it on
And
your phone,
ready.
ready,
Yeah.
ready.
I always think that they need like multiple pitch decks, and they're like, okay, like let me just be able to fine tune the perfect one for that when the opportunity does come up. But you should just have like a baseline one that, just gives your overall mission, vision, values, what you're hoping to receive and achieve.
Mhm.
Always ready to go.
Yes. Your
Always,
own unique identity at the fingertips all the time. And it's the same thing for creators too. Have your media kit. Like why are we refining media kits for brand? You are the brand. Have it.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. No, definitely recognizing when people are buying into you. And honestly, I think that's the unique selling point for most businesses these days, is that a lot of businesses are kind of been there, done that, if you just look at like the core product. But a lot of the times the differentiation is you.
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay. Well, so what strategies do you recommend for identifying the right goals to focus on, especially when resources are limited? So I know you said the smarter method, but
Yes.
how can somebody start identifying so like if I have like a net of like 50 goals, like how do I
Mhm.
now start what's a good number of goals to have, especially now that we're going into, 2025 New Year planning. What's
Yes.
like a good number of goals to have? How can I figure out the ones that I do focus the smarter method on?
Yeah. So I think every person needs to develop their prioritization methodology. And this applies in your business, this applies in your personal life. There's a bunch of different books. Like the 13-week year, I think has been one of the most popular ones lately, where you basically segment your year or any period in time into 13-week stints. And the reason why you do that is because typically at the end of the year, Q4, that's when we get our energy. That's when we're like, dang, we got to get our ish together and we got to like deliver on the goals. And the whole principle of the 13-week year is like, no, you really only need 13 weeks to like strategize and break down these goals into like micro goals. So that is one method. But to get to that, you have to have a prioritization method. And the way that I simply think through this is what I must absolutely do. So like this is as a business, what I absolutely must do. So if you know that you need $50,000 to operate your business this year, that is your goal. And you need to break that down into the micro goals that help support that larger goal, right? That's your P1. Your P2s are what I would say are the things that you should do. They're very important. They could be super critical. This could be like a new product launched, but maybe it's a little bit stretched for the category that you're playing in. As a creative, maybe this is you want to write an ebook because you're already offering services, but now you're like, I'm an expert in doing content creation. I'm an expert in video production. And now I want to have an ebook too. I should do that. I can monetize that. I should definitely do that. But it's not the revenue generator today. I'm going to make it a P2. And then lastly are the things that if I have extra time, I would love to do these things, but they're not revenue generators and the basic operations of my business. They're not things that are going to help drive me further. But they're things that I would like to do. And these could be like more of your passion projects that you're like, I feel compelled to do this thing and I want to make sure that I have it in my foresight, but maybe I don't have the time right now to do it. And I'll come back to this later, but I'll spend the time defining what that goal is so that when I do have the time, or if I do have an extra capacity, or if I can hire somebody to do it, I will absolutely touch this. And that is what we call a P3. So that prioritization methodology, like I said, you can apply that to anything. And I'll take it even into your personal life. Maybe it's like, you know, you want to be healthy. So you know, you got to work out 3 times a week. You got to have balanced meals, so on and so forth. Right. But maybe another part of your wellness is like, you want to go to this like community breathing workshop. That's a should do. You don't necessarily need to do it. And if you don't do it, don't push yourself. And maybe like the last thing is you want to like, a P3 is you want to build out your home gym. You don't necessarily need a home gym because your body is a gym in itself. right? So you could take out a yoga mat and do everything body weight. So there, you can apply it to your personal life and you can apply it to your business. And if you're going to use the limited capacity that we all have each day, you should. You should apply this prioritization methodology to all the things that you're doing because you are one person. You can't do everything. And I think that sometimes you look at business and personal as segmented pieces, but you are one whole person. And so you have to think that way. So again, if it's something that you can do, that's your P1s and P2s. Consider your P3s as either passion projects or somebody that you hire.
Yeah. So first we strategize, then we
Mhm.
prioritize, and then we make them smarter.
Mhm. Heck yes.
The layers of systems. And that's the thing that goes into goal setting is that you can't just make a vision board. You can't just make a bingo card. You can't just write out your goals. There has to be a system that supports it and backs it up. You need to
Yeah.
have the steps that you implement to be able to bring it to life. Um,
It's critical. It's like an action plan.
Yes.
That's really what you're developing. Like if you wanted to all income, you're developing your action plan. You can have a goal as big as you want, but without action, that's just words that you're spitting out into the universe. When people talk about manifestation, I think one of the biggest gaps in manifestation is that like you have to actually move to. You have to
Yeah,
like put
you have
yourself in the right place.
you have to action. I know nothing about football except for the fact that they wear tight pants. Um, and my ex tried to teach me, like he was like a Sunday night football dude and tried to teach me, and I was just like, I don't know. I don't know. I can't comprehend. But if there's one thing that I was able to take away from just watching it, I was like, they don't throw the ball to a person. They throw the ball to a location.
Mhm,
And someone has to run their ass as fast as possible to catch it. So
mhm.
just know that your goals and your opportunities, they don't get thrown to you. They get thrown to position. And it's up to you to move your ass and get there so that you can catch it. And if you
Absolutely.
don't, I mean, it's okay. It's okay. You
The
can
amount
always
of
try.
catches I've missed.
But do you know, you just move the ball down the field a lot quicker if you get to where you need to go. So,
Yes.
yes.
Yes. And then with that analogy, have a team.
Have a
You can.
team. Oh my gosh, have a team. Like you need a village. You actually need a village. And um it's funny, in one of our other sessions with Risa Lake, she has this like incredible career that has like just like spanned over so many different places. She's met some incredible people. And she was saying that like within the last month, she heard for the first time somebody say, your network is your net worth. And it just goes to show, like, we can all, like, as much as like you think you know something, somebody else might not know it just yet. They might not have heard it in that way, in that cadence. And so we all have things that we can learn. We all have new perspectives to share and receive. And you really, really, really need to have people in your space. You really need to have a network of people who can help you bring things to fruition. That's something that we definitely talked about in our other episodes. So the one with Risa Lake and also the one with Deja Roberts and
Mhm.
Naya Gabriella Parchment is that we really get into the value of relationships and the fact that you need them to move forward. Cannot, you cannot go about it alone.
Yeah, I think the research says like I want to say it's about 75% of people that have an accountability system in place actually achieve their goal. Something around that 75 or 80% marker. And it's true. Think about it. Like if you have anybody that you can go to and just talk about what you're doing, ask for insight, ask for advice, and that could be internal to your company, your business, or that can be external. That could be your friends. Like I even think about our relationship and how it's evolved. We met through another one of our friends. You know what I mean? And since then we've been able to evolve our network and ask each other and support each other in different kind of ways. And I think a lot of the insight that I've received over the past especially 2 years, as many people as I've hired, as I've worked with, both in corporate and with my own business, the most insight I've gained is from the people that are my trusted advisor network. And it's so important to make sure that you leverage it. Like, don't just network for the activity of networking. Network and ask people what their goals are, and also share yours and figure out where there's synergy for you to support each other and help each other evolve, because that's where the secret sauce and success really is buried. When you
Yeah,
have somebody that can also provide their insight and also check you too if your goal is like going all the way left.
absolutely. And I think if you feel like you can't share your goals with your people, ask yourself why.
Mhm.
Like, ask yourself why. Is it that you feel like they're rooting against you? Is it you
Mhm.
feel like they're not supportive? Do you feel like if you tell them and you don't accomplish your goals that you're disappointing them, or like you're quote unquote failing at them? Like, what exactly is the reason why you don't want to share it with people, and get to the root of that? Because maybe you need to change your network. Maybe you're not holding yourself accountable as you need to. And maybe you feel like that if you share it with people that like you're really about to be held accountable and that you really have to do it. And if that's fear that's holding you back, like that's something to definitely address and resolve and move forward. But if you feel like you cannot tell your people, you need to figure out why, because you need to be able
Abs
to be held accountable to what it is that you're trying to do. If you notice that you're not meeting your goals on your own, you definitely need some external accountability, holding you accountable. People like Courtney.
No, it's truly that. I think even aside from accountability, if it's not in your direct network, use it as a storytelling aspect to bring in community to your business, your brand, right? Like,
Yeah.
one of the things that started my content creation journey was just I just wanted to be held accountable to going to the gym. And it grew to a community that wanted to be held accountable for the same thing. And we started talking about other things from that conversation. But if it's your goal, like you said, like you shouldn't be ashamed for it to be your goal. You shouldn't be so secretive. And if you feel like if you say it to somebody and they can deter you from it, you need to get deeper rooted in your why.
Yeah. You can, like, I think that we all have relationships that fit certain purposes, but if you feel like you tell somebody your goal and they're like, "Oh, like you're not going to do that. Like how are you going to be able to do that?" You need new people around you. Because anything is possible. Truly anything is possible. And if you have somebody around you who's like, "Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Like how can I help you bring it to fruition?" Those are the people you need in your corner for that specific purpose. Not everybody is meant to share every part of your life. Some people can only believe your goals to the limits that they can set for themselves. Like if they can't see it for
Yeah,
themselves, how can they see it for you? So you need some
exactly.
big vision people if you're a big vision person, and
Yeah. You need
you'll find
believers.
it possible.
Yeah, like, I say it, dreamers need believers,
Yeah.
right? Like dreamers require believers around them. And even if it's not belief in the idea, I have a lot of crazy ideas, and some people are like, "Oof, that's a wild idea." But I believe that you're capable of what you set your mind to.
Yeah.
That's okay. Have people that also challenge you. It doesn't always have to be like favorability and alignment to what you want to do. You want people that challenge you too. So don't be afraid to be challenged. Like it's meant to ensure that you're aligned with the why and the purpose behind what you're driving towards.
Yeah. And it's okay to, accomplish that goal and then tell your loved one, don't question me again.
Exactly that part. You've proven the
What I
success.
say. I stand on business when I say things, okay? I told you it was happening, it happened.
Exactly that. Like, and also reflect with yourself too. Like, I think one of the things, and maybe this goes back to the question about misconceptions, you have to recognize when you achieve the goal. You
Mhm.
have to, because otherwise, if you don't, it actually doesn't complete the goal cycle psychologically. I don't know
Mm,
what book I was reading, but it basically said like if you don't recognize what completion is, you will never be able to achieve any goal. And you will put that into your subconscious that you were unable to complete things. And you will continue that and perpetuate that in every single thing that you do. So those
yeah.
little like micro behaviors when it comes to strategy, it's not like the big, oh, I achieved this major thing, but it plays into that hugely.
Yeah. Oof. Oof. So, what tools or frameworks do you find the most effective for breaking down big goals into actionable steps?
Absolutely. So we already got into smarter framework. So that's where you're going to start again. And just to reiterate, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, timely, evaluated, and revised, right? Or you timely or time bound, whatever we want to say it. Um, from that, I then like to break things down into threes. I don't know why three is just an easy number to always remember. So I call them the three micro goals. So these are essential for you to be able to say, like, this might be a big goal. It could be a stretch goal for all we know. But I need to break this into manageable, actionable steps that I can take to achieve that goal. And just for the synonymization of it, they're little micro goals, right? So for example, let's say you're trying to grow your YouTube channel by 10,000 subscribers by the end of Q1, right? The way that I would break that down is one, I need to have ideas for what I'm going to do, right? So I'm going to brainstorm and plan out 45 days worth of topics and titles for them that resonate with my audience, which might be 25 to 40-year-olds that are seeking to elevate their life. Now, in that, look at how I broke that down. It's super specific. It's like almost like a checklist item. And that's the quintessential essence of a micro goal. It almost is like a to-do list that I can say, yep, I moved the needle on this thing, right? Because you're again bubbling up into your bigger goal, right? Then maybe the next step is I'm going to prepare speaking points and schedule to film at least 15 of these videos in the next 10 days. I don't know, whatever you're going to say your target is. And then of course execute it, right? So don't just schedule it and not execute it. Put it on your calendar and actually deliver that thing. Again, another check. And then the next piece might be I need to plan to hire an editor to support the editing of these 15 videos of content and ensure that they are scheduled to publish over the next 15 days. Another checklist. Now we're moving the needle, and then you rinse and repeat that until you get to your 45 videos or ideas over that period of time. And then boom, look at that, your goal is done. And it seems a little less daunting than how am I going to grow my channel by 10,000 followers? That sounds kind of like empty, right? In a way, because you're like, how do I drive there? And another approach, if you're kind of like, okay, so I don't know exactly what the steps are from beginning to the goal, there's this approach called the Merlin method, which is like literally working backwards from the goal, right? So the whole purpose of the Merlin is you know what your end goal is, and then you start first with the step that came right before you achieve that goal. So this is like a brainstorming approach almost, if you will. And it allows you to set what those key KPIs are going to be able to get there from reverse order. And it also allows you to put together the roadmap and key milestones that are going to be essential for you to deliver against the goal. And then, like I said, it also allows you to start brainstorming against that desired outcome that you're driving towards. And again, like it's just one of those ones that so many people get stuck at the beginning and they're like, oh, where do I start? This gives you zero excuses because it gives you the ability to reverse engineer it. So let's apply it to like a case study. Let's say you're trying to launch a new product. So if I'm using that Merlin method, the key step is going to be, okay, I launched a product. What had happened right before that? Maybe it's like I needed to put the logistics plans in place to make sure it was on the site, in the store, wherever it's going to be, right? So I came up with a logistics plan. And then I also had the marketing plan that came right before that. So I could be able to sell it into wherever it's going or put it on the site. Then I also had the pricing strategy. And then I developed the product. And then I had market research to make sure that the product was relevant, right? So then now you're going to work in the reverse. You're going to start with your market research. You're going to start with your product development. Then you're going to go into your pricing strategy. You're going to go into your marketing plan. And then look, you launch your product and it's a little less daunting because you started from the backwards first. And then the last third approach is my signature approach. And I love this approach because it helps you build the muscle of consistency. And if you know anything about the Adulting with Courtnee brand, she's big on consistency and healthy habits. So I call it the minimum viable commitment or the MVC. And the whole principle of this is to set what the minimum goal that you can achieve on a daily basis to build the habit of consistency towards your ambitious goals. So, oftentimes, what people fail at when it comes to goals is being consistent with them and being held accountable with self towards them. And I developed this when I was going through this like whole weight loss journey, integration of a healthier lifestyle journey. And I think one of the things that I looked at was the 75 hard challenge. And the 75 hard challenge is like working out twice a day for 45 minutes. It's a lot of time. 90 minutes in a day is like a lot of time to apply to anything. And I was like, I don't know if I can do that every day. But what I can do every day is ensure that I commit 10 minutes each day to intentional movement of my body, whether that be Pilates, squats, push ups, whatever. I can commit 10 minutes. I will always find 10 minutes. And with that, I built on that micro habit to build towards my larger goal, which was having a sustainable habit. And now we're like 185 weeks later, and I've worked out almost every day, 5 days a week now, because I can't work out every day in the same way. But I have a sustainable habit. There's never a day that you're not going to see me at the gym. It's
Yeah, and
amazing, right?
you
So
tore your
apply that to your business.
no, I was just saying you were working out even when you tore your Achilles.
Even when I tore my Achilles, I Googled adaptable workouts because I had the muscle of consistency built in me.
Good.
She was committed. But let's apply it to your business. So outside of just wellness, like let's say your goal is to learn a new language because you want to start working with Spanish speaking clients, for example, right? So of course it's going to take some time, but at least you should learn the basics, right? So maybe it's like, I'm going to spend 15 minutes a day learning that new language on an app or listening to a podcast. And I'm going to do that consistently every day, right? Simple. And like apps like Duolingo or the My Fitness Pal, all those kind of apps are actually rooted in the same principle. Just doing a micro habit consistently every day to achieve a broader goal. Now imagine you apply that to anything. You can achieve anything.
Wow. Wow. Thank you. I know that somebody's listening right now and is like, my life has changed. And probably is. Honestly, I'm about to go listen back to this and just like take my notes and start to apply it. Um, but no, such like amazing takeaways and just a new perspective on goals and what it really takes to be able to achieve them. So thank you. Okay, so
Cool.
very lastly, what's
Mhm.
one piece of advice you wish you'd received earlier about setting and achieving goals?
Hmm. I thought about this question a lot. I think one of the ones that has like, and I still work through this today, is that people can have the same goal, but they deliver on that goal differently. And the amount of times that I think sometimes we see somebody that has that product or offers that service or does that thing or that is in that niche or whatever it may be, you see somebody else already doing it and they're doing it well. You're like, how can I set my goal in a way that is authentic to me? And I think the first part is just setting the goal. Like it could be the exact same goal. It doesn't matter because you, as your own unique self, will absolutely deliver on that goal differently. You have different experiences, you have different history, you have different knowledge than the person that is doing that thing. It's okay to achieve similar success, and it's okay for that to also exist in the people around you. Like, I think one of the things when I became a coach, I was really afraid to be friends with other coaches. So I was like, damn, if I'm friends with other coaches, then like we're all competing for like the same clients. Same thing with being a content creator. But there's so much power when you surround yourself with people that are driving towards similar goals as you. And you have to have the confidence that you bring your own unique perspective. Comparison will always be the thief of joy. It will also be the thief of productivity too. So don't let it be the thing that drives you from the things that you're driving towards. Focus on the strategy and also your confidence in that strategy, and you will be successful.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Your insights have just been just so clear, concise, efficient, effective. So thank you so much for coming and joining us and just sharing a little bit of the nets that you have in your brain.